Hello there, duelists. Today we're adventuring deep into the circles of hell to check out another fiendishly resilient archetype, and have Burning Abyss on the playmat. Burning Abyss are a fan favourite and one of the first kind of TCG exclusive archetypes. They've been meta and rogue throughout their lifespan and have had numerous kind of rejuvenations with both direct and indirect support. I think these devilish cards will be played for a very long time. So let's get into it. Okay, so straight into the fiends. So I'm running 3 Farfa, different rarities obviously. So each of the Burning Abyss monsters has a very similar effect. They can special summon themselves if you don't control any spells or traps, and they also have an effect when they get sent to the graveyard. So I think the thing that really lets them down in the modern time is that they can't use both effects. So if you special summon them, you can't use their graveyard effect. You just got to be real careful about how you manage that when you're dueling. So far, for when it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish 1 monster on the field until the end of the turn. Oh, also all Burning Abyss monsters destroy themselves if there's not a Burning Abyss monster. Sorry, if there's another non-Burning Abyss monster on the field, which includes face-down monsters as well, so you've got to be real careful about that too. So, newly released to the semi-limited list is Graff. I firmly expect these guys to come back to 3 next ban list, or at least I hope so. I think the semi-limited list is reserved for a special kind of hell, so either stuff really should be limited or not. I think the 2 of mechanic is a bit real. I've gone on a tangent here. Anyway, Graff. When it's sent to the graveyard, you can special summon a Burning Abyss monster from your deck. And then Seer is very similar, and again newly into the semi-limited section of the Forbidden list. So Seer, when it's sent to the graveyard, you special summon a Burning Abyss monster from your graveyard. From there we've got 2 Scarm. So Scarm is at 3, but I'm choosing to only play 2 of it just because I feel like you don't really want to see it too often. Classic case if you want to see it but you don't want to see it too often, classic. So when he's sent to the graveyard during the end phase, you can add a dark level 3 fiend type monster from your deck to your hand. And again, I think the downside of Scarm is that it's the end phase, so it makes things quite slow. But again, he's still a solid addition. From there, we've got 2 of the Libic, which I now realise I probably should have put with Seer and Graff. So he's very similar. If he's sent to the graveyard, he can special summon a Burning Abyss monster from your hand. But additionally, its effects and negatives is actually really good because it means that you kind of dodge that self-exploding effect. From there I've got a couple of one-offs. So I've got Alich and I've got 1 Barbar. So again, these are kind of just different names. Alich is actually fairly useful even on your opponent's turn. So if you send to the graveyard, you can target face-up monster and its effects negated. And then Barbar, you can banish 3 other Burning Abyss monsters from your graveyard to inflict 300 damage for each, which, you know, can be Gaga Cowboy-esque effect, but I don't think it comes up that often. From there, we've got 3 Tour Guide of the Underworld, which will be your opponent's main Ash Blossom effect Veil at infinite opponent's target, but it's just too good not to run. Like, as a 1 card, it kind of gives you like a real, 2 disruptions, and then it's just a really solid card. And then 3 Fiendish Warrior Rhino. You could probably cut this if you wanted down to 2, or if you're really going for it, 1. Fiendish Warrior Rhino I think is a good addition. So he prevents your fiend monsters from being destroyed by battle or card effects, which means they don't self-implode. And then also if you send to the graveyard, you can send another fiend type monster from your deck to your graveyard. So that's kind of like our monsters. From there I'm running quite a large hand trap engine. So I'm running 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, and then 3 Effect Veiler. Alright, so I'm grouping up the spells and traps just because there's not actually that many spells. So first up, I'm running 3 Void Apocalypse. So I don't know. I am torn. I like it. I like it a lot because it gets rid of stuff from your hand. It dumps stuff. So the main effect is that you discard a card, send a fiend type monster from your deck to your graveyard, which is obviously really good for these guys. The problem is that it's continuous, which means that come your 2nd and 3rd turns, you will not be able to special summon your Burning Abyss monsters from your hand, which can be a bit of a detriment, let's say. Again, I think I like it at the moment. I think the more I test, the more I think maybe I'd cut it to 2. And from there I'm running 1 Foolish Burial and 1 Upstart Goblin. From there into the traps, I'm running 3 Fiend Griefing. So this is a really cool card actually, I like it a lot. So you shuffle an opponent's monster from their graveyard back into the deck, and then you send a Fiend type monster from your deck to the graveyard, which is obviously really good. Like, a load of decks are now super graveyard reliant, so this is just a really solid way of, you know, of kind of adding additional disruption and then dump. So, you know, you could dump the Farfa, or you could dump the, you know, the Alich to negate an effect or banish a monster. It's just solid disruption. From there, running some more hand trap, so 3 Infinite Impermanents. And then I'm also running some kind of excavate-y traps. So I'm running 2 Lost Wind. So again, you can reset that if your opponent special summons from the extra deck, and you can target a special summon monster and negate its effects and harvest attack. And then I'm running 2 Titan Ascider as well, which is similar. You can set it if your opponent special summons from the extra deck, and it's very similar to Lost Wind, apart from you have to negate the effect of a monster special summon from the extra deck, and it reduces its attack to 0. So it's got trade-offs, but I kind of figured running, you know, a couple of each felt like a nice even balance. Okay, and then onto the extra deck. So we're running 3 of the big dog himself, Dante, a lovely garish gold rare. So Dante, you know, detach mill 3 as a cost, and then increase his attack by 500 for each milled. And then if he attacks, you can switch him to defense position at the end of your, you know, battle phase. And then also, if you send to the graveyard, you get to add back a Burning Abyss monster from your graveyard to your hand, which I think is probably the effect that comes up as being the most relevant. I think this guy's not nearly as much of a, you know, problem as he used to be. You know, you used to be able to slap a couple of Dantes down and sit behind that for a while, but it just doesn't quite have that same resilience, let's say. From there, I'm running a couple of other rank 3s. So I'm running 1 Breaksword and 1 Cicada King. So the number 3 is basically just a effect veiler on legs, and then he can also increase the attack, or sorry, the defense of an insect monster by 500, so you can kind of make him a 3000 booty, or switch a battle position of an insect monster. Breaksword's obviously detach 1 to pop a card on your side of the field and your opponent's side of the field. From there, I've got 1 number F0, so, you know, 2 non-number monsters of the same rank go to him. He can pinch, you know, your opponent's monsters, and he can be prevented from being destroyed. So, you know, he's a solid card. I don't think he comes up that often, but he's definitely there. You could choose to, you know, add or remove any of these 3, I would say. From there, we're running 1 Beatrice, Lady of the Eternal, and I think that, I don't know, it feels like this card should be able to come back off the Forbidden List. I'm not really sure why it's still there. So you can put it on top of a Dante by discarding a Burning Abyss monster, and then quick, you can detach to, you know, dump a card from your deck to your graveyard. And then if it's destroyed, then you can special summon Dante, Pilgrim of the Burning Abyss, from your extra deck. Pilgrim is very solid. You know, you can't target him. He can discard a Burning Abyss monster to draw a card during either player's turn, and then if he sends to the graveyard, you can rip a random card out of your opponent's hand. So again, it's fairly solid utility, but what I would say is that you kind of got to destroy Beatrice, which is just a little bit restrictive. So I don't think he comes up as much as maybe he used to in the past. From there, I'm running a few Link monsters. So I'm running, you know, the 1 Cherubini, so, you know, monsters that he points to can't be destroyed by their own card effects, which means that you can special summon them back, which gives you a bit more versatility in terms of using your Burning Abyss monsters. You can also send a card on the field to the graveyard to prevent him from being destroyed, and then you can dump a level 3 monster. So he's solid, but I would say he doesn't come up nearly as much as I kind of thought he would. He's still a good card, no doubt, but yeah, I think his utility is, you know, not as high as I thought it would be, you know, kind of going into the build. From there, a couple of generics. So I'm running IP Masquerena, Nightmare Phoenix, and Nightmare Unicorn. So, you know, IP Masquerena to go into, you know, Unicorn probably on your opponent's turn, get a spin. Nightmare Phoenix is just, you know, kind of utility. You can swap it out for whatever you want. And then finally, I'm running 3 Link 4, so I'm running 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess, 1 Borrelsword Dragon, and then 1 Access Code Talker. And I really don't like throwing in Access Code Talker into every single deck profile. I mean, obviously if you've just got one of it and just like to swap it around and stuff, but I really like to build my decks and then kind of have them built as a self-contained deck, and then I kind of move on to the next one. And moving around or adding in a $60 to $100 card, depending on how good you can get the price, isn't really the way that I like to build decks. But I think that the way that I've got the Burning Abyss deck at the moment, the way I think it should be played is stun your opponent to death on going on their first turn, and then you need to kill them, because I just don't think you have the resources or the game to carry on stunning them for more than at least a couple of turns. So you want to stun and then death. Alright, so on to the conclusion, and first up, a little bit of a confession. I am not a seasoned Burning Abyss player. I've not really been playing the deck for too long. This deck was one of the decks that I inherited from my friend who stopped playing the game, but I think the deck has definitely lost some of its edge. Dante isn't nearly enough of a wall anymore, and with all like the removal options available to the modern game, it doesn't feel like the power ceiling is high enough to stop your opponent from busting through that kind of Dante wall. So for me, it's a 3 for relevance. I think the consistency of the deck obviously means that most of the time you are going to be able to make some plays, and you can squeeze in a lot of like disruption outside of the engine and stuff. So from that regard, it's still going to play the game. I don't think it's going to be hitting home any YCS wins anytime soon. I think the deck is extremely interesting though, and there are both linear plays, with like Torguard and stuff like that, kind of like your non-linear player routes with some of your, just multiple Burning Abyss cards. And the combination of control and beatdown, which gives each duel that you play with the deck a very different flavour. So for me, it's a 4 for fun factor. Cost-wise, I am a little bit sad to say that the deck is expensive. My estimated price for this current build is about $400, which in my humble duelist's opinion just isn't worth it. So, what do you think? Do you think these guys deserve more support, or just left to be rot in the inner circles of hell? Thanks for watching.